Good afternoon. May peace and power elevation be to all you beautiful people. What's happening? This your girl Tiffany coming through here live in the faith. So today I am going to get started on the subject dealing with sociology, which is right in my alley. Okay, so I'm into the sociology field, studying about information that deal with social economics, crimes, all of that. So anything that's under sociology, that's my alley. I love it. So today I'm going to get on the subject about Oliver Cromwell Cox. So Oliver Cox was a Trinidadian American sociologist, and he was a Marxist. Okay, so what we'll find out if we ever study history on Marxism, we'll see that there was a lot of African Americans that was supporting the Marxism at that time period because their whole thing was to speak out against capitalism. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And I want to thank everyone that has been subscribed to my channel, sharing my channel, liking my channel, all that great stuff. And I will continue to keep this channel going. So from here on out. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the information, shall we? So who was Oliver Cox? So Oliver Cox was a Trinidadian-American sociologist noted for his early Marxist viewpoint on fascism. And he was born to a middle-class family in Port of Spain in Trinidad and Tobago and immigrated to the United States in 1919. He was a founding father of the world system perspective, an important scholar of racism and its relationship to the development and spread of global capitalism, and a member of the Chicago School of Sociology. In 1929, he developed poliomyelitis, causing both his legs to be permanently crippled, and that was when he gave up his plans to study law. He was the son of William Raphael Cox and Virginia Blake Cox. So his early education, he attended to St. Thomas Boys School when he was in Trinidad, where he studied math, English, language, and more. Cox attended YMCA High School and Crane Junior College in Chicago. So in 1927, he earned a Bachelor's of Science degree from Northwestern University. He also attended the University of Chicago Economics Department and graduated with a master's degree in June of 1932. From there, he continued at Chicago in the Sociology Department, where he received both his master's degree and his PhD. His master's degree was completed in 1932, and then 6 years later, in 1938, he graduated with his PhD. All right, so it talks about his father. So his father, William Raphael Cox, worked as a captain of a revenue schooner, and later on as a custom of assize officer, right? And Virginia Blake Cox was the mother of Cox and his 7 siblings. So Cox's uncle Reginald Vadell was a Catholic schoolmaster at St. Thomas Boys School. He was a prominent teacher in the local school system and was highly respected in the community. Reginald transitioned from the position of a teacher to the inspector of schools in 1943, and later became a city councilman and alderman, and then mayor of Port Spain. Cox has 3 nieces: Anne V. Awan Patton, Esther Awan Tomaso, and Juliet Awan Ubopu. So his academia, so he was first initiated teaching career at Willie College in Marshall, Texas. From there, he also lectured at Tuskegee Institute in 1944, where many thought he would bring them prestige. Later in 1949, he moved to Missouri, where he taught at Lincoln University until March 11 of 1970, where he told the president at the college, Walter Daines, that he was retiring. Cox moved and accepted a position as a visiting professor in the sociology department that was encouraged by Alvin W. Rose at Wayne State University of Michigan. All right, so these are the writings. He was a Marxist. He criticized capitalism and race and foundation of capitalism in 1959, capitalism and American leadership in 1962, capitalism as a system in 1964, and his last, Jewish self-interest and black pluralism in 1974. So perhaps most profound and influential book was Caste, Class, and Race. Okay, published in 1948. Also in 1948, Cox published Race, a study in social dynamic, in a scathing introduction to the Black Anglo-Saxon by Nathan Hare. Cox ridiculed what he regarded as a misguided approach to the study of race relation he called the Black Bourgeoisie School, headed by E. Franklin Frazier. The title of Caste, Class, and Race referred to the vigorous criticism of W. Lloyd Warner's caste conception of race in the United States. So down here goes into the awards that he received. The racial and ethnic minorities Oliver Cromwell Cox Article Award for Anti-Racist Scholarship is given out annually, and also the session on racial ethnic minority Oliver Cox Books Award. All right, Cox was the first ever recipient of the Du Bois Johnson Fraser Award by the American Sociological Association. All right. So these are his quotes. Now, let's look down here. It says, it should not be forgotten that above all else, the slave was a worker whose labor was exploited in production for profit in capitalist market. It is this fundamental fact which identifies the Negro problem in the United States with the problem of all workers, regardless of color. It says the capitalist state is not a spiritual product. Its function from its inception in the medieval town has always been primarily to secure the interests of a certain class. Right. So it goes down, talk about his selected work and all that, etc. And this is where you can find the sources down here at the bottom of the page. You can find the external links at the bottom, and you can also find citation here as well. All right. Now, I'm gonna stop right there. Shout out to Ibibio. Thank you for coming through. That's interesting. You put St. Louis had a prominent communist organization. But you know, communism was a big thing in the black community throughout from the 40s to about the 70s. It was a big thing. So you had many black people who engaged into communist activity or wanted to be a part of communism because they thought that that was the foundation to break away from capitalism and to bring they thought it was a catalyst to bring about social economics. I mean, not social economic, group economics, and to be able to focus on the oppression of the people. So many blacks during those time period between the 40s and the 70s, they focused so much, they put so much emphasis on communism. They put so much emphasis on communism. And to this day, you still got black people that support the communist doctrine, and they look at the work of previous African Americans who were really doing the groundwork and putting out the ideology. But as we all can be honest, right? Communism can only go so far in this country. We still live under the society that deals with capitalism. So we can have the idea of having a system as such, but as far as the pragmatism is concerned, it's going to always be capitalism. And that's going to take a collective to bring about a change. And that means that many people will have to put their lives at risk. They have to put their lives at risk in order to change this economic system. Otherwise, it's not going to change. Everybody's not willing, because ain't nobody willing to give up being in the upper class or middle class. They're not willing to do that. They're not willing to put up the fight, no matter what race they are in. They're not willing to do it collectively. So it's not going to happen. So again, the idea of communism is just idealism. That's all it is. But many and five people saw it as a way to bring a catalyst to the Black community as far as group economics and bringing some type of political structure for us. But as we can see, the global system is going to be capitalism. The system in America is going to stay capitalism. Because people are just that selfish. They're not willing. Yeah, they're not willing to give up the hard work they in. They're not willing to like change anything they do, especially if they done made a lot of wealth. You think they gonna do that? No. It's not gonna happen. Not in this time period, not in this day and age while we're here. It's not going to happen. It's not going to change. Well, maybe Cedric Robinson, he was also a Marxist himself. So he may have spoken about Oliver Cox in his work as well. Because, if you look up Cedric Robinson, he was a Marxist and he supported communism and all of that. He was a big critic against capitalism. But I'm about to post up some books that you can look into as well. Right. Well, first, let me go ahead and go to this article. All right. So in this article, and this article is coming from Jaster. I always recommend Jaster article. All right. So as you can see over here, it says lynching and the status quo. The Journal of Negro Education, Volume 14, Number 4. Right. Now, as you can follow me. So let's go to the first part of the article, right? As you can see, this was written by Oliver Cox himself, lynching and the status quo. Now, he talks about lynching during that time period because lynching was a serious thing and it was very punishable to Blacks in the community, especially when it came down to Jim Crow. So he wrote, quite frequently, lynching has been thought of as a form of social control consisting in the taking of the life of one or more persons by a mob in retribution for some criminal outrage committed by the former. This method of unceremonial punishment is assumed to be common on the frontier where there is no constituted judicial machinery, and where in the interest of social order, the group finds itself constrained to act spontaneously. Furthermore, it is known to occur in organized society where some crime is of such a heinous and socially revolting nature that an angry crowd gathers spontaneously and passionately mangles the criminal to death. Even in this situation, however, the police may be ineffectively organized, as is ordinarily the case in rural communities. Then he goes down and speaks, and he says, at any rate, these two situations do not involve significant social problems in America. In fact, they hardly refer to lynching as a social institution. They have no racial, nationality, or political class significance. Justice among frontiersmen has never been a pressing social problem for the nation. Moreover, lynching must not be confused with the hue and cry of the general mob in medieval times. Here indeed was a recognized method of arrest with its system of sanctuaries and sanctuary laws. Lynching may be defined as an act of homicidal aggression committed by one people against another through mob action for the purpose of suppressing either some tendencies in the latter to rise from accommodated position of subordination, or for subjugating them further to some lower social status. It is a special form of mobbing direct against a whole people or political class. It is the inter rather than the intra group phenomenon. We may distinguish lynching from race rioting by the fact that the lynching mob is unopposed by other mobs, while it tends to be actuated by a belief that it has a constituted right to punish some more or less identified individual or individuals of other race or nationality. All right. So I'm just gonna stop right there. But this is one of the articles he had written about lynching. So again, lynching was a punishment that was used towards African Americans during the Jim Crow period. Right. So in the segregated society. So if you was a black person that was in a white neighborhood and you weren't supposed to be there, you got lynched. Or when they had the sundown period, right? And let's say you was in that area when the sun went down at nighttime, you got lynched. Or if you try to talk to a white woman as a black man, you got lynched. See, they didn't have too much issue with black women dealing with white guys like that. You know what I'm saying? They didn't make a big old thrill out of that. I mean, they were against interracial relationship, but it was something about a black man talking to a white woman. It posed a threat to them. So he had to be lynched. And that was the most common way to get killed, was when that white woman say that a black man or a group of black men has raped her. If you try to vote, you was gonna get lynched. Now let me tell y'all a little story. At one point in time, did you know black people during those time periods, when they seen a little white kid, they had to hold their head down and say yes sir or no ma'am to a white child, and they had to walk the opposite they had to walk across the street or walk the opposite direction. So if that white child was coming through, they could not walk on the same sidewalk as that child. They had to walk across the street. So imagine being a grown black man or black woman looking at a white child and tell them yes ma'am or yes sir. Especially if you was in a rural town. What we got to realize, this is one of the reasons why I do these type of videos, because we have to understand how we deal with learned behavior. How learned behavior has an effect on us today as a people. If we go to that level, then we can sit there and we can really understand historical events and how these things have an effect on our mentality. Okay? Someone put on Facebook that we have been indoctrinated. So yes, we do take apart accountability for ourselves, but overall, we have been indoctrinated as a people. And not just as Black people, but collectively as human. We have dealt with learned behavior. So what we get is learned behavior. And it has to be unlearned. It has to be broken. But in order for that to happen, it has to be a collective change taking place, not just with one group of people, but with all groups of people. If it doesn't happen with all group of people, then that one group is not enough. So I hate when people kind of just place the blame on African descended people, African Americans, or just African descended people in general, as if we caused the racism, as if we kept the racism going, as if we created this problem. No, we didn't. We was brought into this situation because of who we are. We happen to be victim of the situation. We happen to deal with it from multiple levels, from classism, education, television, you name it. And yes, we may have rights here and there. We may have little opportunities here and there, but we don't have enough. Someone else posted up something, and I'm going to read what they put on Facebook, because I think that this is where we really need to have this conversation about what does it really mean to be in a capitalist society. All right, so someone put up a post, and I'm currently reading the post right now. Hold on. All right, someone put, if a Black man thinks capitalism is the answer, then you know he's asleep. Jay-Z could try to buy a NFL team and he'll own like 2%. And one of 8 Black millionaires. Like y'all would never have enough chips to buy mass of love. Gotta find another way. Sorry. And that's the truth. Okay, that's the truth, because although Jay-Z is a billionaire, right? But he gets so much opportunity because of the fact that he's Black. So he's only given so much leverage as a Black billionaire. He won't be able to have total control over everything. He won't be able to buy everything that he wants. Same with Tyler Perry. Now, Tyler Perry was fortunate enough to build an empire based off the plays that he done did, right? But he could only go so far as a Black billionaire. He's not going to go any further than that. Not too many white companies going to let him buy up a lot of their businesses like that. Same with Kanye West. Kanye West is supposed to be a billionaire. He made his profit off of selling his shoes and his clothing design, right? That's how he earned his profit. And of course, he owned rights to his music now. But Kanye West can only go so far. He's not going to get that much leverage. If he was to have some type of ownership, if they were all able to have some type of ownership or some type of company or something, they only going to get a certain percentile. They're only going to get a certain percentage. They're only going to get maybe 1%, 2%. So with Jay-Z trying to own the Brooklyn Nets, right? He only with 1.5% of Brooklyn Nets. That was it. So he really don't have that much say so. He don't have that much say so. He don't have that much power. See, this is what people have to understand about the game of capitalism. Yes, you got black millionaires. Yes, you got black billionaires, but they don't make up enough number compared to those white counterparts or Asian counterparts or any other counterparts. They don't make up enough numbers. So it's not enough to have about 8 or 9 black billionaires and maybe about 200 millionaires, roughly, or even more than that, or maybe 10,000 millionaires. I don't know the number. It's not enough when everybody else is a working class or in poverty. Their wealth alone is not enough for the black community. Hey, it's been a long time. Thank you for coming through. But it's not enough. So people got to understand capitalism is a catch-22. Just because you make it to the top, that doesn't mean that you're going to get everything or you're going to acquire everything. They still going to deal with racism because of who they are. And these guys, they didn't come from generational wealth. Jay-Z didn't come from wealth. He came from the projects of Brooklyn, New York. Tyler Perry definitely didn't come from wealth. He started off poor in New Orleans, and he grew up he grew up being homeless on the streets of Atlanta. Kanye West didn't come from generational wealth. His mother was a professor at, I think she was a professor at Morehouse College, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot which college it was. It was one of the HBCUs, okay? She was a professor. He lived in a, middle-class neighborhood, but he didn't come from wealth. And they don't come from those who are privileged. Remember, they don't come from those who are privileged. Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm gonna give you some books that you guys need to check into. All right, so there's 2 books that I was able to come across that was written by Oliver Cox. This book right here, ladies and gentlemen, is called Caste and Class and Race. Okay. Now, I'm going to zoom it up just a little bit. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. But anyways, that's the name of this book. It's called Caste, Class, and Race. So you guys check that book out. All right. Then I have another one, which is called Capitalism as a System. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead to chapter 1 real fast. And let's look at it. It says, structure of the system, right? We may regard the elementary structure of the capitalist system as constituted of the whole network of its territorial units and their interrelationship, Let me read that again because this is important. All right? This is very important. As a matter of fact, I will highlight this. We may regard the elementary structure of the capitalist system as constituted of the whole network of its territorial units and their interrelationships. That's something to think about. The nation, colonies, and dependence communities thus related tends to form a commercial and power status gradient with its most energetic and prestigious component at the top. In this matrix, economic and political position are in constant flux, the rate depending largely on the vicissitudes of the leader. The latter maintains its position in competition with other major aspirants. Thus, apart from war and diplomacy, international competition take place in a variety of internal and external market situations, ordinarily with entrepreneurs and business enterprise initiating the transaction. Now check this out. It goes down to say it may be shown then that from the very inception of capitalism in Europe, the internal structure of the system has been formed by continually readjusting and expanding constellation of economically interlocking entities. The system first became inversely organized at about the opening of the 13th century with two dominating centers, one in the Mediterranean and the other in the Baltic. Then, with the discovery of the New World, Holland gradually emerged as leader of a more unified structure. Later, under the leadership of Great Britain, the process of expansion and unification continued until practically the whole world became integrated into interdependent, rhythmic unity with a single major nucleus. The system apparently reached its highest state of perfection between 1870 and the First World War. All right. And it goes on to say, among many criteria which might be used in classifying the units of the system, the extent to which a community has been able to control its foreign commercial relations seems crucial. The leader nation is normally least subject to the economic restraints and plans of the other nation, while it is most influential in altering the affairs of others in its own interests. This does not mean, however, that the leader is ever completely independent. Indeed, leadership has meant greater and greater dependence upon the rest of the system, but this dependence is characterized by progressive diversification. There are no closed capitalist society, and any disruption of the system must be reflected as a disruption of capitalism itself. Recently, in an address before an assembly of outstanding businessmen, this point was emphasized by one of their congeners. The capitalist system is essentially an international system. If it cannot function internationally, it will break down completely. Capitalism, even in modified form, that is, with the exception of private initiative and economic activities maintained, must be recognized as only possible in an integrated world society with full facilities for a maximum of international economic activity assured. Thus, despite the apparent exclusiveness of capitalist nations, they are in fact closely bound together in a logical system of universal market relationship. All right. So again, this comes from the book called Capitalism as a System. And that's what it is. It's a system. And capitalism is the reason why slavery existed. Capitalism is the reason why slavery has existed. If it wasn't for capitalism, slavery would not be in its form. Slavery would not have taken place. But capitalism is the reason why you had slavery in this country. All right. But that's all I have for today. And I thank you guys who have been tuning in, watching. Thank you for liking my channel, sharing my channel, etc. So with that being said, I hope you all have a good one. I hope you all be safe. And till next time, y'all take it easy. Peace and power elevation. Be to all of you. This your girl Tiffany. And I'm logging off and saying deuces. And thank you so much. And again, it's very important that we all study psychology, anthropology, and sociology. It's very important to get into those subjects because you'll understand the state of the people and the current mindset and where we're going as a people. All right. So y'all take it easy. Y'all be safe, man. And I'll talk to y'all later. I'll build with y'all. All right. Deuces.